what's poppin' everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Zach Lesage here. Today we're going to be covering over Dragapult EX. Now Dragapult EX is going to be one of the most powerful decks in all of the Shrouded Fable format, but what does it gain from Shrouded Fable? Well, we have Dusknoir and Fezandipiti alongside with a few other changes in this build. We're going to be covering over the Dragapult, Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir build of this deck, and you might be like, hey Zach, is that too much? Is that going to work? Well, we're going to find out with some of the gameplay today, and of course I'm going to be sharing over my most current list that I have as I prepare for the World Championships. If that sounds good to you, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and if you need to check out this deck, we do have it in the description. You can copy and paste that right into PTCG Live, and if you need any of the cards for that, check out our sponsors at Kayfabe Cards, GameStop, PTCGL Store, and of course the TSS website. Let's jump into the deck list. So here we have it, Dragapult EX. We went with a thin line of Dragapult EX so that we're able to utilize its Phantom Dive attack to do 200 damage to our opponent's active Pokemon and spread 6 damage counters wherever we like. Now, when I was looking over the set list of Shrouded Fable, we could see that Dusknoir and Dusclops are going to have some natural synergy with this type of deck, giving ourselves an opportunity to put an additional 5 damage counters on a Pokemon or 13 damage counters on one of our opponent's Pokemon. We can now knock out a Squawkabilly on our opponent's bench by popping a Dusknoir, hitting the Squawkabilly, and then knocking it out with Phantom Dive. That could get us 4 prize cards in one turn, giving ourselves some incredible gameplay. We're going to be using Drakloak and Pidgeot as our draw engine. You're not always going to be able to get out both because, I mean, this deck can be rare candy intensive. Same thing with Charizard EX. Charizard EX is there to be a backup attacker against aggressive decks. It's better as the game scales if you need to get a big knockout, or it's a way to accelerate energies. Sometimes you don't need it because turn 1 you got an energy, turn 2 you got an energy, then you go Neo Upper Energy. There's only so many attacks you have to make in this game. We have a little bit more consistency with Fezandipiti, which is going to take over the spot of the barrel where we had in similar lists, such as what Tord ran at NEIC. We have other consistency cards such as Rotom, Lumineon, that are really going to make this deck as consistent as possible. Our supporter line is a little bit techy, but that's because we have ways to get those cards with Pidgeot, Lumineon, and Fezandipiti. Most notably, we have Silene to get back our Neo Upper Energy, and it gives us opportunities to get out of potential ways when our opponent Snorlaxes us up in the active, blocks our Pokemon. We can get back that Kieran, we can get back our Palpad, and we have cool things that we could do with that. We could also get back rare candies with Silene and Palpad to Silene to get back even more rare candy so that we have opportunities to get these Pokemon all set up. I think altogether the list works really well together, so we have the list in the description, copy and paste it to PTCG Live to play along, but let's jump into some gameplay, see exactly what this deck can do. Alright, so we actually won the coin flip here, and we don't want to go first, we want to go second so we're able to get out a supporter, hopefully giving us some more access to our Pokemon. You need quite a few Pokemon on your first turn, so that'd be pretty helpful for us. I mean, Fezandipiti is really not my most favorite start, but when it comes down to having a Nest Ball, an Arven, a Forest Sealstone, I honestly don't really have too many complaints. Just have to really hope that our opponent doesn't go kind of wild with one of these turn 2 decks. There's a lot of decks in format that just like rip through your entire setup turn 2. Pokemon like Radiant Greninja with Moonlight Shuriken. This might be a great hand, but we could have Manaphy prized. So we're hoping it's not entirely that case. Gardevoir is actually a pretty good matchup for us. So we can use Dragapult EX to kind of rip through their Pokemon. Hopefully they don't get necessarily a crazy huge setup. But triple routes, pretty good if you ask me, probably. Wow, another Nest Ball. A lot of these decks have these huge setup potentials. And for us, it's just like, yep, we're just trying to do the exact same here. So considering our opponent really can't do too much for us and snipe our board, I think what I'm going to do is start off by playing Arven. I'd like to go Arven for at least a Buddy Poffin, and at this point a Defiance Band just to clear cards out of my deck. I want to take a quick look at some of the vitals that I have going on here. Couple Charmanders, Dreepies. See that we got a decent bit of everything here, not too much being prized. We even have the Fire Energy. So we're going to start off with Buddy Poffin, and I just want to double check there. So Dreepy for sure. I don't see a world where I'm not grabbing Dreepy. And I think what I'm going to do is actually just grab another Dreepy. It's very much a Dreepy-based matchup. We do have Rotom. And I think the way that I want to approach this situation is going Dreepy like this. And I want to go Nest Ball, searching my deck for a Rotom. Now, might be seen as like a little bit like dangerous to go like with Rotom here, but I'm going to go ahead and Forest Heal Stone. I'm debating if I think what I want to do here is grab some other portions of my deck. So what I'm going to do is use Star Alchemy, so I'm able to search for another portion of cards. And the cards that I really want to grab here are going to be I was debating on a Pidgey. I think what I want to do is grab a Charmander for sure, so we have ways to accelerate energies onto our other Pokemon. It could also be a decent attacker. And I think I'm going to end up grabbing a... I'm grabbing a Buddy PAF and grab these cards. You can see, when it comes to in real life, it's just like, yep, online I'm just like, I'm just one step behind. So I'm going to grab a Charmander for one, and since we don't have Dusclops as the other portion, that's one of our prize cards, I'm not going to necessarily grab that card. I'm going to put the Fire Energy onto Dreepy. It's better to do that because our opponent, I don't want to say could potentially not get our active, but it's likely not going to happen, but it could happen. But I want to make sure that this Pokemon's already powered up to go, and then we're going to draw 3 cards with instant charge. So I've had a lot of people in the comments lately be like, hey Zach, why are you including cards like Fezandipiti, Rotom, and Lumineon in your decks? And if you're watching this and you're like a intermediate player trying to get better at the game, 100% you're like, okay, yeah, obviously we're using Rotom because it's a Forest Seal Stone target, and then you get to draw 3 cards. We're using these cards as support crutches in these decks because otherwise they just don't function. You could randomly draw a Rare Candy Charizard, or you could be playing on the casual PTCG live ladder. You need these cards throughout the game in order to make your decks as consistent as possible. That's how players are able to have these runs where they're like, hey, I went 7-1, or I went I won a League Cup. Like, you could win 2 games at a tournament without playing an ideal list. I think that's very possible. Pokemon can pop off like that. But as soon as you're playing against players who really know what's up, it's going to be a tough one. So you can see we have some of the pieces here necessary to maybe at least take a knockout next turn. What I'd really like to start doing is attacking with Dragapult, if that's possible. Now the Arven here is kind of like that nice like little piece. What I'm going to go for here is go for Drakloak. And the reason why I'm evolving this one first is so I'm able to see, like, a soft see what cards are in my deck. And if I get a Pidgey, I could go Rare Candy Pidgey, Rare Candy this, and I can kind of start popping off against my opponents. The Ultra Ball, quite nice there. Probably gonna end up discarding a Dusclops, and Defiance is not really gonna be super important in this matchup. Not Dusclops, Dusknoir. I literally get that whole line mixed up in my head all this time. And there's the Pidgeot. So this is where we're gonna get set up with our standards first. We could have just gone Rare Candy Charizard, jumped right into it, but we're gonna go Rare Candy into Pidgeot here. Now, we haven't played a supporter for our turn, and we do have the opportunity to go Rare Candy Charizard, get some energies, but that only gets us 1 prize card. I think what we want to start doing is attacking into our opponent's other Pokemon. And since we still have that Quick Surge, I think what I'm going to do is, well, I mean, if we go Rare Candy Charizard, we can get another Drakloak. That might actually just end up being the play, to be honest. So let's go ahead and go for it with Arven. We're gonna go for Rare Candy Charizard. Sometimes I overthink these and I'm like, you wanna know what? It's gonna work out anyways. Let's go for Quick Search here. We're gonna end up grabbing just another Drakloak. We're not gonna attack with Dragapult, but this way we get out of the active spot and we're still able to attack. As long as I did my math here right. I really hope so. We haven't attached for our turn yet. Probably want to clear some energy out of our deck first, so let's go Rare Candy and a Charizard. So Charizard here can be attacker, it can be a Pokemon that we can accelerate energies with. 1, 2, 3. And in this case, we're going to have to attach 1 to the Fezandipiti. We could also attach, we could attach 3 to the Fezandipiti. but I think Charizard has a little bit more life left into it. And the reason why we're doing that is so that we have a higher chance of getting Dragapults or other energies. I'm going to grab the Ultra Ball there, retreat here, send up Charizard, and we're going to take our first prize turn 2 with Charizard EX. Now, regardless if this strategy ends up working or not, I mean, this is looking like a really good board state, at least as good as it can. And you can see, I'm getting too excited. I'm literally shaking my thing. I have a loose cable here. I think I need to order a new one off of like Amazon for this HDMI, mini HDMI for my camera. But it works. I'm back. But I think in terms of having a decent setup, we're pretty good. Like, we got out Drakloak, Pidgeot, Charizard. Would I have liked to have that Duskull out? Yeah. If our opponent knocks out a Drakloak on our bench, am I going to get out Duskull? Yeah. And what we're really trying to do, like, I'd really like to attack with the Dragapult EX in this matchup. And the reason why I want to attack with Dragapult EX is because I'm hitting the active and I'm putting 6 damage counters on the bench. I'm hoping to eventually draw more than 1 prize card per turn. In this current situation, I can only draw 1 prize card per turn because my opponent only has single prize card Pokemon out. That's why Dragapult is a very efficient attacker. It's not as easy to set up as a Charizard because it requires 2 different energies, and it's not doing as much damage to the active. So Charizard's really good for big HP'd Pokemon, whereas Dragapult can kind of gnaw down out of field and set up for a multi-prize card turn. And as long as our opponent doesn't really do too much in the first couple turns, we should be okay. But they can eventually scale their damage up with Monkey Dory to do a big balloon burst or anything else like that. The counter catcher into the Fezandipiti, I'm completely fine with. It looks like they might be having a tough setup, or they might just be able to score a knockout onto our Fezandipiti EX. If they score a knockout on Fezandipiti EX, I'm also fine with that. We'll have to see exactly what our opponent's doing. We can also go boss on their Gardevoir EX to now draw 2 prize cards. Gardevoir is weak to Dark type, so that's another reason why Charizard can be quite good, with Gardevoir being one of the best decks in formats. Certainly have some opportunities there. You know, they can hit for 180 damage. I actually don't know if they're going to be able to knock out our Fezandipiti if they don't have another energy in play. They're probably going to actually pitch an energy from their hand to get that other energy in their discard pile off of the Kirlia. They don't have it. So the way that they're powering up the energies, they could power, oh no, they could power 3 energies. 3 energies only hits for 180. And if they move the damage counters around, they can't necessarily get there. We might just Turo our Fezandipiti if they go for that, and I'll put a Duskull down. If you've watched my Charizard video, there's just straight up Charizard, Pidgeot, Dusknoir. The reason why we played this Duskull in this deck is because our opponent, because we can use the ability, or we can use the attack of it. Now it looks like our opponent here decided to concede the game, realizing that they didn't have enough energies in their discard pile. So I think the play that our opponent was trying to do, and I mean, typically I'd cut off at this point and be like, hey, let me go for the outro, but I really want to explain why our opponent is conceding and why that's a thing in this format. So our opponent conceded the game because they were trying to do 210 with Drifloon. They planned the play with Counter Catcher. They already played Arven, I'm pretty sure, a supporter at least. And so they had no more outs. They already used all their Kirlia. They already evolved into a Gardevoir. So they're trying to do 210, and they see that they have 4 energies in their discard pile. Well, on PTCG Live, it shows 4, but it's actually 3 Psychic and 1 Dark. Gardevoir can only accelerate Psychic energies. So they could put 3 energies onto their Drifloon, and that's 180 damage with the second attack that does per each damage counter on the Drifloon. So 180, and then they're probably looking at their Monkey Dory, where they're able to put 3 damage counters from one of their Pokemon, if they have a Darkness energy on that Pokemon, to my active Pokemon. In this case, what they could do is put themselves in a position where they could do 180, but they don't get the knockout on the Fezandipiti, which leads me into a situation where I can waste their turn, use Professor Turo, and then put a Duskull down and saving the Fezandipiti from that. So having Pidgeot out and your opponent missing something means that I could just go boss on their Gardevoir. I take 2 prize cards, our opponent takes not enough, and they need a Gardevoir. So I could really just set my opponent out of the game from that situation. In the Shrouded Fable format, a lot of these decks are kind of high roll decks is probably the best way to put it, where there's these big combo decks. I've played maybe about 2 other games where my opponent OHKOs, they go first with Regidrago, then they cure them turn 1, 110 to 3 of my Pokemon when I was trying to film this video. I had 2 games where, regardless of my setup, unplayable games that just did not work out. And I'd love to show those for the videos, but when you lose the game in under a minute, it's not great content. This is a game where, like, we finally got a big setup, and when you get Charizard, Pidgeot, Drakloak turn 2, you're big chillin'. Like, these are the setups where it's like, wow, this is insurmountable. If I was my opponent, I'd be like, I don't know how to beat this deck, really. So that's kind of the only gripe that I have about our format and anything else that we have going on for this. But it was good gameplay. We were going to win that game. Our opponent did have that huge miss. We did get a good setup. And I mean, I think it's better to show something like this and then have an explanation of it all. But anyways, let me close things out. I'll see y'all there. In situations like this where I'd love to kind of go on and play for a while, it's decks like these that I like playing on stream. I'm not doing a stream next week because I'm going to be in Hawaii for the World Championships, but it's one of those things where I would love to share some more thoughts and in-depth, and that's really where I grind games. These videos are really to show how the deck can come together in an instance. So if anyone's like, hey, can you play against this particular matchup? Maybe that's something that's going to happen when I do a live stream of my games. Or, I mean, I also offer coaching on Metafy, so if you want to run over any particular matchups, you're trying to get better at the game, maybe you're trying to go to one of the upcoming regionals in North America, Europe, South America, anywhere, right? I do offer one-on-one coaching, and of course I offer group classes, so by the time you're watching this, I mean, I'm literally going to be fully packed, ready to go to the airport in Montreal. Super excited about that, and ready for the World Championships. This is going to be one of the decks that I'm going to be bringing with me. I don't think I'm going to play it, but I did win a league challenge with this archetype in the Twilight Masquerade format. So if I don't really like find a deck that I like, I don't want to be like, I'm going to play a deck that I played at a league challenge at Worlds. But I do put a lot of effort into the decks that I play locally, and I try my absolute best. So it's one of those things where if I end up coming and playing it, this is a valid deck choice, one of the top 10 decks in my opinion in this format. I'll have to see how the rest of the format plays out, but right now, super solid deck. If you need any of the cards, check out our sponsors in the description. And I also have my own personal Discord server, so if anyone wants to join that, kind of become part of the Zach Lesage community, a lot of blend over with me and the Shuffle Squad. But I hope that you all enjoyed watching this video, and I will catch up with all y'all later. Peace out and have a great one. Want to support the Shuffle Squad? Be sure to check out all of our sponsors in the description to pick up Pokemon TCG singles, sealed, and PTCG live codes. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.